morning. Welcome to Metropole Television. You are watching Business AM. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiaga. This is the last part of our show this morning. So what we're telling you is exactly what it is that you expect is trending in other sectors of the economy this morning. To help us understand what it is that we're going to do, just want to give you a background of our conversation this morning. Now, the new normal around companies has been, number one, working from home. That's the biggest one. I mean, the biggest advice that we got when we did announce the first case of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country is that companies were supposed to allow their employees to work from home. But then companies have realized during this COVID-19 pandemic that indeed it's possible, therefore, to adapt a fully remote model where you pretty much don't have to go to work. Case in point, the Andela case. They announced they're going fully remote. They sold their physical assets, and now they expect their employees to stay back at home. Interesting. They're the first ones to do like that, and so all eyes on them to see exactly how this model will work for them. All right, to help me understand whether it's possible really to go fully remote and the intricacies around just advancing this model, we do have Mr. Bernard Nyagaka. He's the head of business and strategy and marketing at Onesha Technologies Limited. Bernard, how are you doing, man?
Hi, Liza. I'm good. Good to see you, man. Shiny morning.
See you. All right. So you saw that headline. What did it make you think?
I mean, it's interesting. We saw this conversation starting from the Western world in terms of companies going fully remote. We are very much aware that Facebook announced that they are allowing some of their employees to work from home. We had companies like Quora. I'm sure most of us are very conversant with Quora, the question and Q&A platform, allowing people to work from home. Jack Dorsey from Twitter also said something about allowing people to work from home. I mean, all these companies are now considering remote work as part of their option. And we are starting to see that conversation and those actions trickling down to emerging markets. And the first case we have seen is Andela, the software recruitment platform that connects African developers with businesses around the world. And it's interesting because, I mean, their business is built around connecting devs to companies. Initially, they were doing it physically, whereby developers to apply, you go to their physical training centers around Nigeria, Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya. The Kenyan center is by there around TRM. They had a huge campus over there that could hold probably 500 developers. But now they're closing it down. They're saying, we all know the cost of operating, those entire campuses, it's pretty expensive. So they had to go fully remote to ensure that they maintain their OPEX low and keep their business running.
Brad, is this a conversation that we are only seeing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, or you say it's something that was with us but just hadn't been graduated to this level?
I would say this is something that as most companies have been doing. I mean, even at Onesha, we have over 1,000 plus creatives who are working remotely for 100 plus businesses all over the world. We have clients in the US, in Europe, in Africa, Nigeria, basically across all countries, and we've been managing all this work remotely. On a macro level, in terms of companies that have been doing this for quite some time, we have the likes of Upwork, and you will be surprised to learn that WordPress, the company that enables people to build websites, WordPress basically powers 25% of websites on the internet, which is equal to 400 million websites. The entire company of 1,000 plus employees, they all work remotely. I was speaking to the head of product development, Mr. Adili Mamushe, a few months ago when we were raising capital, and he was saying the essence of remote work basically enables people to be more happier, and it enables you to focus your shift from managing time towards managing your energy, because you can work in the morning, you can work in the evening, you can work at midnight if you feel like, as long as you deliver what the company expects you. So we've been seeing a couple of companies have been doing this for quite some time. It's only that now, with the effect of what is happening globally, most companies are, are just letting people to work from wherever they feel comfortable. Actually, it's interesting. They're saying it's not working from home anywhere anymore. It's basically working from anywhere where you feel comfortable.
They're calling it working from anywhere. But then I want to take you back to what Andela were doing just before they did announce this. Remember, they did lay 10% of their staff off, all right? Does it mean that when you're working fully remote, then you don't need much of the staff as somebody who's working physically?
Yes and no, because the most critical component of working remotely is communication. And when communication is broken, there won't be much to be done in that company. So most of these companies are maintaining their C-suite executives in terms of the top management, VPs of product, heads of sales, heads of marketing, and having them working physically from one central location so that they're able to manage all this other stuff. So what that enables you is to ensure the central management of the business still remains while diversifying the rest of the company into remote areas. So it gives people more autonomy to feel more productive.
All right. So another question, Bernard. Just let me just catch you there. Therefore, just so we try to understand this. So if in reality Andela is going fully remote, do their market chances change? Because we know their model is get people, train them, and let these people are the ones that you're going to absorb into your business.
I mean, the market dynamics might change a bit because I didn't get your question right there, but let me try to answer the best I can. The market dynamics might change or the customer demand might change because what they promise the customer is not exactly now what they're delivering. Let me explain why. Initially, what Andela said was we want to empower 100,000 plus developers of the next 5 years to give them access to global opportunity. And you have to go through a rigorous process for you to join that network. So companies like BBC, Facebook, Amazon, and the rest were buying into that mission. Those are some of their customers. But now, if you let any developer just join the network because the company is fully diversified, you lose that touch. You lose that vision of the business that brought in much of these customers. So we might start seeing companies. You might start seeing them acquiring companies that may not care as much their vision as these other companies could, but it may affect their business model a bit in terms of how they outsource clients and how they sell to clients.
Let's talk about which company. When you look at Andela, I mean, they're a bigger company. Is it a smaller company that can do this, or is it a bigger company can decide, okay, we're going fully remote? When you look at it, where's the balance?
I mean, Andela is a huge company. Andela has raised over 20 billion Kenya shillings from global investors. They can actually afford to do it. Actually, I think it's more complex for a bigger company to do it because there are so many dynamics that affect how you diversify into remote work. I mean, there's considering, diversity. What kind of people do you allow to work remotely? There's also the home setup. Most of the guys who are employed in these companies have families. They work from areas, sometimes environments where they're not comfortable with. So there are so many factors that you have to consider before you diversify a company into going fully remote, as opposed to a smaller company with 10 employees, 5 employees, where there isn't much, there isn't much basically dynamics in terms of moving people around. Anyone can work from anywhere in a small company. If you're a group of 5 people, you can work from a cafe, you can work from a bench somewhere in the street, as long as you have access to broadband and internet. So it's easier for smaller companies to do it than bigger corporations. Most of the bigger corporations are choosing to do it now because they know when something of this sort happens the next 10 years, there won't be another chance to do it. So this is the time for them to move.
I looked at it and then I said, well, I mean, Onesha isn't really that far from what exactly Andela is doing. So when we're talking about relating these two activities, it would be good to talk to you. Do you foresee, therefore, a case scenario where you're saying, I think it's possible because you have that percentage of remote work in your company right now, where you're saying it's possible for a Kenyan company right now to also go fully remote, especially a company like Onesha?
Yeah, I mean, Onesha is currently operating at 80% remote. We've been doing online meetings with clients. helping clients basically move to digital. As you are very much aware, most businesses are currently struggling to make that shift from digital. And Onesha has been doing this for the past 4.5 years. So we've seen a very increase in upsurge in terms of customers that want help from us. And all this help is being delivered by over 100 plus creatives who are using video calls, audio calls on all these platforms. And basically, you'll be surprised that we only have 2 people in Onesha who are managing the entire process. 2 people in the sales department managing 100 plus creatives, communicating to different businesses. The only thing you need to have is basically tools. If you need to share files with a client, there's Google Drive. If you need to communicate effectively with a client, there's Slack. If you need to do project management, there's Trello. If you need to do video calls to clients, there's video call. We have all the tools at our disposal to even Onesha to go fully remote, which you're considering to. But since most Kenyans buy once they meet you, you have to meet someone physically. So they must come to your office. They must, lots of things. So you should still maintain some physical activity. But interestingly, we have a couple of co-working spaces in Nairobi that companies that are considering doing remote can use for meetings. I mean, we have the Leisure in Westlands, we have Nairobi Garage, we have whatever, there are a couple of working spaces that can company to still meet a client physically while the rest of the team works remotely. So basically, it gives you an access pass for the day or for the week. So it gives some level of flexibility. And that is the first step towards companies plugging into the remote environment that most businesses are shifting to, because the working spaces, they're basically remote work in a more central location.
Good. There's the narrative that pretty much working remote would look a bit cheap for a company trying to do that. But what investment areas do you foresee a company wanting to go fully remote going to direct its investments in terms of the operations of the company?
In terms of investments, I think much of the companies, if you're divesting from buying inventory like office or whatever materials, desks and everything, much of the companies will be directing much of this cost that is saved towards making the employees more happier. That is enabling the employees to enroll in fitness programs, because if you're working from home 24/7, you need some form of fitness. Companies will start, pushing the employees to sign up for mental wellness programs. We know it's a big topic. Companies will start directing those funds towards enabling the employees to buy better working desks at their homes. So this cost that is being saved is not money that is being shoved to some other place. It's basically direction of funds to a more useful place that will make employees happier. I don't think there is any area that any company will invest in if they're diversifying or if they're divesting investment into a physical place than making the employees more happy. If a company is looking into a different section, then they need to relook into what their mission is as a company.
So change the definition of who a full-time employee is, because right now the model that we're working with, a full-time employee is an employee who can access the company premises, pretty much work a 9 to 5 p.m. job. Does it also now start to give us a different meaning of who a full-time employee is?
Interesting point, Elijah. I mean, I was having the same discussion with a client of mine yesterday. So these guys wanted to hire a software developer from us. And they wanted basically, we'll be managing the software developer, but the guy will also be attached to our company. Is it a full-time employee to your company, or is it a contractual for Onesha? It was an interesting discussion. I don't think we can define them as full-time employees. A new term for these people is basically people on remote work, because technically they can feel free to work on other projects. They can feel free to work on their personal projects as long as they feel productive as employees. I mean, as long as if you tell an employee, I need a sales report by end of week, and the guy gives you a report by Wednesday, they have 2 days to buffer to do their own things. That doesn't mean they're your full-time worker, if you're to use that name. They're basically people who are on doing work on demand for your business. The only thing you're basically paying them is paying them per the amount of hours they put in to do your work. So I think we are going to see more autonomy in terms of the kinds of work people choose to do. Today you might be a salesperson for, let me say, Safaricom. Tomorrow you are a salesperson for I&M, who knows? And you are doing that fully remotely. And the field that is leading this way is basically software developers. I've seen software developers and social media marketers. They work for a couple of businesses and they do this at their own time.
I want to ask you though, I mean, Bernard, when you look locally, is it possible for us to start saying, well, it's possible for you to go fully remote in Kenya? And I want to take you back to something that you mentioned when we started this conversation. You said there's something of a culture in Kenya where if I really want to engage someone or a certain company, I gotta sit there with them, I gotta see them in person. Is it possible for us to say, wow, we can have a company that is fully remote in the country?
I can't say that for sure, because the Kenyan economy is a highly mobile economy. It's a highly informal economy. Most of these companies that are going fully remote basically existing highly formalized economies. The US, Europe, Australia, whichever. The African market is a basically people need to move and meet and do all these things. So the concept of going fully remote may not exactly work for some businesses here because of the dynamics. Because there's an element of trust when you meet someone physically. The African consumer buys based on trust and based on how well they know you. And if I haven't met you as Bernard, I can't give you a check of 1 million shillings. I have to meet you. I have to feel you. So until that changes in terms of how people buy, I think we are ready for a fully remote work yet. Even the workforce itself, it's not skilled enough to handle work fully remote. People don't know how to manage their time. People don't have good amenities at their homes to enable them to work fully remote. How do you expect someone, if I'm paying 20K a month, they probably have other things they're doing, and they probably live in a bedsitter in Nairobi, supposedly. Someone cannot work in a bedsitter in Nairobi with a family over there, with all those things happening around your house. I don't think we are there as an economy because of the setup, the structure, and the basically skills of the workforce, the local economy. And we don't have, I mean, if you go to markets like New York, Bangkok, and all these other places, if you live in a studio apartment in New York, you can go to Grand Central Park in New York to work from there, because they are basically a very nice environment at Central Park you can work from. In Nairobi, if you go to Uhuru Park, someone will steal your laptop even before you send your first email. Yet, so it's I don't think we're there yet.
Bernard, now as we clear this morning, you're saying that Onesha is now 80% remote. Do you see this number graduating to maybe 90% as maybe 100% in time coming?
Honestly, I would love for Onesha to be a fully remote company, because what that gives for us and our clients is autonomy to access various creatives anywhere. I mean, currently we recently attached a client, a creative in Nairobi who does social media marketing and SEO to a business in New York. We have a few clients in the US, and we would like to have 1 million of those cases, because they don't have to meet physically. We don't have to meet them. We have never met this SEO guy. We have never met this client in New York. They fully work at their own time. They communicate efficiently, and we want to transform the same behavior into, the network of creatives that we have. Our mission as Onesha is to help create the next 1 million jobs profitably, and we can't create the next 1 million jobs if our business model is tied toward physical meetings. You can't scale because you are limited. So you have to create an environment whereby people feel comfortable, people feel okay to basically work from anywhere. And our investors have been really incredible to giving us the support we need to make that possible and build a platform that facilitates that kind of behavior and transaction.
Bernard, lovely to speak to you this morning, man. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this with us.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to another session with you guys.
All right, that's exactly what we had prepared for you this morning. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. You're watching Metropole Television.